Mother Teresa was asked to march against Vietnam, and she chose not to march, and people were very shocked. She's like, show me a march where you're marching for peace or you're marching for love, and that I'll lead. And that's how I feel. I'm not against anyone. I'm for everyone. And I think that if we can all learn to love ourselves and accept ourselves and feel safe and courageous enough to voice our own thoughts, I think there'll be more honesty and more truth and more genuine connection between people. And to me, I think that's how we fix the problems we have.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Academy Podcast with the #1 international best-selling author and multi-award winning success and life coach, Kamil Shah. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking this opportunity to grow together with me, Kamil Shah, and my guests on this program. Each episode of the Academy Podcast is filled with insights and wisdom from my guests, which I believe can have a profound impact on the way we live our lives. Without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Academy Podcast. And before we move on with today's episode, I just want to give a massive shout out to those of you who have been listening to the episodes and providing me invaluable feedback. And I just want to say thank you so much for leaving your comments and your reviews on particular episodes and the things which have connected with you. So I want to take this opportunity right now just to give a couple of shout outs to people who have left some amazing comments. This one comes from Yuvarajan. He says, truly inspiring podcast. Thank you so much for providing the platform for people to bring out their authentic voice to the world. Each episode, interview, or solo episodes has brilliant insights on how to become the best version of our own self. Amazing. Thank you so much, Yuvarajan. I truly appreciate that feedback. Another review comes from Serene on the episode with Nicole Smith-Ludwig. Serene says, I loved her description of her leap from the airplane and how liberating it feels not to be in control of anything. She made me want to try skydiving. Amazing. But also how much we miss by always trying to stay in control instead of jumping into unknowns. Thank you, Serene, for that feedback. Appreciate that so much. Thank you again. And finally, another one from Nawira who says, such a great conversation, overcoming your fears and reaching new heights. Literally, again, this is in connection with Nicole Smith-Ludwig's episode. So thank you for that. Thank you again, everyone, for leaving your comments and reviews. Keep them coming in because, as always, it just helps us understand what parts connect and resonate with you. Okay, so thank you again. Keep them coming in and let's proceed with today's episode. Hello and welcome again to the Academy Podcast with myself, Kamil Shah. And today is another super special day. Joining me today is Dr. Tina Welsome. Tina is a doctor of physical therapy, owner of The Key to Wellness and The Key Publishing, a holistic transformation coach, and international bestselling author. Decades of professional experience with patients, students, and clients make her coaching effective, efficient, and easily integrated into your life. Her passion is to support the well-being and healing of your heart, mind, body, and soul as you learn to love your authentic self. Tina will empower you to become the author of your own life story as you discover unconsidered possibilities, remove barriers to success, and unlock your full potential to live a creative life you love. Her own personal life journey prepared her to use her voice to amplify the voices of others to create even more impact in the world. You can find her enjoying living her best life as a mom of 3 divine masculine men in making and expanding her own potential as a perfectly imperfect human being. Most recently, Tina became an international best-selling author yet again when the co-authored book, Authentic, Courageous Humans Who Changed Their Lives by Rewriting Their Story, hit #1 on the Amazon charts across the globe. Welcome, Tina.
Welcome. Thanks, Kamil. So good to be here with you.
Thank you so much again for saying yes, Tina. This is what it's all about. I truly love our conversations previously, and today is going to be another super. I can feel it right now. It's going to be another supercharged conversation with you. As a backstory for people tuning in, Tina, I'm ever so grateful to Tina. Tina is one of the special people that I'm truly grateful for in 2021 and moving forward, because without Tina, if I had not come across Tina, I would not be here right now talking to Tina and you guys listening in and talking about the book that we're going to be talking about today, which is Authentic. So thank you so much, Tina. Thank you so much for reaching out and getting all of us co-authors together in writing our authentic stories.
My pleasure. When I came across your article in Brains on alignment, I think that's always been a word that's been big to me in a physical sense as a physical therapist, right? Our body needs to be in alignment, and that's how we handle load, and that's how we move well without, overuse injuries and things like that. But I also think more from an internal perspective, having our heart and our mind and our soul aligned with who we are and knowing where we want to go in our life and what we want our journey to be is also important. And then there you came at it from this architectural standpoint and bringing it into life coaching. And I was like, this is a soul person for me. Like, this person speaks my language. And, I think we talk about having 20 seconds of courage and, saying hello or reaching out. I remember thinking, like, who am I to reach out to this man in Dubai and say, I like what you wrote and I'd love to talk more with you. And, here we are. Now we have this international friendship, and I get to watch you and your beautiful family, and I get to see all the incredible things that you're doing, on your own with your clients, but also with the relationships you've developed with all of the authors in the Authentic book. And I really have to thank you, because I think your presence and your grace and your energy and your enthusiasm has really, I think, helped each of us in the book take that next step. And I want to say thank you for that, for coming into my life and for helping me be more courageous and consistent with the things that I want to do in my life. So I too feel, huge gratitude for having connected with you this year.
Thank you again. And again, for you guys tuning in, like I mentioned, Tina reached out, and at first, there's always the instinct of you thinking in the same way, who is this person? Can I trust this person?
Lady.
Who is this person and can I trust? But I guess that's where the you talk about authentic. And when I was reading you reading your email to me, there was something authentic in there. It wasn't the run of the mill, stuff that you would get from people. And I was reading it, and I was like, this is legit. So I reached out, and obviously we communicated, and it just took off from there. And the more, I guess, I learned from the conversations with you, and then the more I learned that, well, this is a multi-authored book. There's 21 of us, 21 different stories, 21 different backgrounds from across the globe. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it all it took was that one yes. And this is why I'm a true believer of, that one yes. You don't need many yeses. You just need that one yes. And for you, it was saying, yes, I'm going to reach out to Kamil. And for me, it was to say, okay, hello, I'm Kamil.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, absolutely. And and the book itself, this is what's nice about it, because the book talks about courageous humans. And to say yes, it's not an easy feat. Right? It takes courage to say yes to anything. That's what I'm just want to give people tuning in a backstory of how all of this came about. So, Tina, before we go into the book and your chapter, you're a powerhouse. You are a powerhouse. You have
otherwise known as crazy, but okay. Powerhouse. I like powerhouse better. I'm going to choose powerhouse. Thank you for the better word choice.
I'm going to go with powerhouse, because powerhouse.
I'm going to go with powerhouse. Thank you.
You've authored so many books. You own your own publishing house, and if you don't mind sharing with people tuning in, the energy that you have, and the work, the craft that you've built over the years?
Sure. It's interesting. The craft that I've built over the years, I kind of look at it, it's like this recent past, right? So it's kind of the ending of my marriage, and my writing really just started as just journaling because I was very lost and very confused, and I just had a lot in my head that needed to just get out. And in fact, I grabbed a stack because I thought you might ask this question. These are
Oh,
all the
wow.
journals that turned into, there's twice as many actually. I didn't pull them all out. These are the ones that I had filed away,
Oh, wow.
that kind of were the start of my writing journey. But when I actually look back, and sometimes you think about, you do inner child work, and they say, well, what did you do when you were a child that brought you joy? And what did you give up along the way as you grew up? I was an avid reader. I mean, at one point in my life, I had a journal that I would write all the titles and authors of the books I read. And like within a summer, I was through a journal, like a notebook. And my dad's
Wow.
like, are you really going to keep that up the rest of your life? And I thought, no, I don't have time for that. I'd rather just read. But I got so far through the children's section and the young adult section. And I remember at like 12, I was reading The Winds of War by Herman Wouk, and I was having
Wow.
nightmares. And my mom came in and was like, well, do you remember your nightmare? And I was like, yeah, I had this visual of this bomber plane that the Royal Air Force was flying, and in the scene in the book, the one of the main characters, he's flying bombers, and there's like I guess below these bombers they had like a glass bubble, like there was a shooter down below the plane, and that person had been killed, and there was blood spattered. Sorry if I'm being gory, but blood spattered, and he had like lowered himself down and had to like lay on this dead body of his friend to shoot this and get the bomber plane, whatever. And my mom goes, where in God's name did you get this book? And I said, Dad gave it to me. She's like, what? And then, so of course she wakes my dad up, and she's like, Mike, what are you thinking? Our 12-year-old daughter is not ready for this graphic, and with her big imagination and whatever. And my dad's like, she has nothing else to read. And of course, that's a big fat book, and I probably read it in a week. And I loved the story, and I've gone back and read it again now as an adult. But, I ran out of things to read because I'm curious, and I'm a voracious reader, and I love words, and I love learning about other people. I think probably my favorite genre is like historical fiction, because my brother teaches history. I always say I hate history. History's boring. Don't ask me to memorize dates and facts and figures or whatever, but like the why of history, why things happen and where conflicts arose and where we maybe could have done something different. And the people that lived through that time period, like that's just fascinating to me. So I think kind of knowing what makes people tick has always been important. And then, of course, I went the traditional route, like go to college, figure out a career you think you're going to love. I was a dancer. I became a physical therapist after a car accident, went to grad school, became a PT, started teaching because I love to teach. But when it comes to writing, somebody shoot me if I have to write an academic paper, because I love to do the research, like to read it all, and I love to write it, but to like actually get it published, I don't want to publish something that nobody's going to read. Like I want to publish something that's going to help people, normal people, regular people. And so then I kind of, as I started writing this whole personal journey, my therapist said to me, you really have a way of taking your own experience, what we're talking about in therapy. He's like, I give you a book to read, you come back and have read 10 more, and you take these conversations with me to these levels I've never had with anyone. He's like, I really think you should consider putting it into your own book. And so it kind of seemed like something that maybe I could do to give back, that if, one person could read my solo book is called Loved. If one person could read Loved and just not feel as alone as I did, or not feel as wrong as I did, or guilty or shameful or whatever, that it was worth it to me. So that was kind of how I got writing. And along the way, took some business classes to try to figure out how I needed to do that, took a bunch of writing classes. And then I was invited to write a chapter in a multi-author book. And in doing that, connected with 22 women who were all on their own journeys, and the power of a group and the power of a support and surrounding yourself with like-minded people was just invaluable to me. And the title of that book was Significant Women. And it was very interesting as we sat and talked about what the term significant meant to us, having meaning, having impact. Significant in science is like just an important finding, it's just so many different things. And then from that organization that I learned in writing that one chapter really helped me say, aha, I have to go back to my own book because it doesn't make sense. Like it was a whole lot of journaling that I tried to organize that was just still a hot mess. So my own solo book has been a 3-year labor of love, and I've probably rewritten it 5 times, and I probably could rewrite it a 6th because every time you come back through it, you're at a different place. But I do feel at this point, like coming through it this last time with the editor, like I feel done. I feel ready for it to be birthed. And I know where I need to go next on my journey. Loved was about me going from a place of having no self-worth and just thinking I had nothing to offer my children, the world, life, whatever, and realizing that I do have value. We all do. And I am loved by myself and by other people too. I now see that. But the next story for me is now, how do I carry that forward into being my authentic self and showing up that way, and maintaining that love for myself and not self-abandoning at work, in relationships, with my friends, with my children currently, with all of that. It's kind of, yes, it's all well and good to be okay within yourself, but then there's that where you end and others start, known as a boundary. That's a whole nother world I'm learning to navigate. So I feel like this chapter's closed and I'm ready for the next one. And the publishing house actually came out of that. So one of our authentic co-authors, Cindy Rodriguez, is a good friend of mine. And as you know, the proceeds from my book support LMU Girls, which is a sewing school for young girls in Malindi, Kenya. And Cindy was actually the one that held the mirror up to me when Significant Women came out, and the proceeds from that book went to LMU. And we were talking about where I was at with my book. And I was at the point where I was writing book proposals and getting ready to send them out to traditional publishing houses. And Cindy said to me, why are you doing that? Why don't you publish it? Why don't you self-publish? I said, because I don't know how to. And she said, well, I'm sure you could learn. And I said, okay. And she pulls open Significant Women and she reads my own words from the chapter, which talks about kind of setting our own metrics for success, and that we don't necessarily need, or for me, I didn't necessarily need the traditional, and it's 100% male dominated, the traditional male publishing model to tell me that my book had worth. And she said, if your goal is to really help other people and maybe to, make money to support your children in what you're doing, she's like, then why don't you do it your way? And she's like, because doing it that way could take another 2 or 3 years to get the story out there and to help people. And so she was really the impetus behind me saying, all right, well, what would that look like? And so then I looked into how to start a publishing house and did a publishing certification, and the Key Publishing House was born. So that's how we got to this point. So yeah.
Wow. I love that story, because it's starting on your own and you're doing it by yourself. And I think we live in a time now where it is possible, and you're a living proof of that, of actually starting your own publishing house and saying why not, right? Why do I need to fit in into another model where I can, into another mold where I can actually create that mold according to my own vision and my own goal. And that's amazing.
And I have to say, I'm not alone. So it sounds like I did all that alone, but I didn't. I had some incredible mentors along the way. They certainly say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And, I've had some incredible people who have shown up to show me what I need to know, who've, created their own businesses, and I've followed their models, taken what works for me, adapted it to fit my life. I've had some incredible, created some incredible friendships and partnerships along the way. So I have to say, I write my gratitudes every day, and every day I'm just so grateful for the people that have shown up in my life to help motivate me, to pick me up when I fall down, to cheer me on when I have a success, to question me about what I'm doing and be like, is that right? Because I don't have all the answers, to push for something different. I feel very, very grateful at just, at the beginning of my journey, I definitely was alone, and I am so not alone anymore. And it's just amazing to have, created this community of people around me. I feel very blessed.
There's so many things that you've just mentioned in the last few minutes. I want to come to love, right? I want to come to love and just stay with love for a little while, because love is a kind of integral to your chapter in Authentic, the book, Courageous Humans Who Change Their Lives by Rewriting the Story. Your chapter is called Love is Real. And at the same time, you've got your first solo book. Am I right in saying called Loved with a D at the end, right? Do you mind just touching a little bit on those two?
Yeah. So when, along my journey, I'm trying to think, I don't have her book right here. Along my journey, I had asked, I guess she's a love and relationship coach, but I had worked with her for business stuff. And she's like, don't you want to work on, love and finding love and dating? I was like, nope, right now I'm kind of just trying to clean up my past and my present and take care of my kids. And, but she had recommended a planner to me, that Danielle Laporte. It's, I forget the name of the planner, but anyway, I think it might be the Desire Map Planner, but it comes off of a book that Danielle Laporte wrote called The Desire Map. And her whole concept is, instead of setting life goals, we're so big on setting goals based on achievement. Like, I want to lose 20 pounds, I don't, but a common one. I want to lose 20 pounds. And, but really, is the 20 pounds the achievement, or is it because I want to fit in my jeans and feel good about myself? Or is it because I want to be healthier and I want to feel better? So really what the Desire Map process is looking at how you want to feel in your life. So not what do I want in my life, but, how do I desire to feel? And so I went through the whole process, and it helped me identify 5 core things that I wanted to feel in my life. And this was, again, going back to, I'm going to say the end of my marriage and the beginning of me figuring out who the hell I was. But the first thing was, I wanted to be mentally and physically healthy, because I was not in a good physical place, and I was not in a good mental health place. The second was that I wanted to figure out who I was authentically. I wanted to know who I was, who I wanted to be, not who my parents or society or the physical therapy world or my boss or my ex-husband or my kids or anybody else wanted me to be, but who was I? Who was the true me? The third was that I wanted to feel joy in my life, because I was somebody who very much was stuck ruminating and perseverating on the things that had happened in my past that were traumatic, that I just couldn't seem to work through and let go. And I had tremendous fear for what the future was going to bring. And I really did not know how to just be in the present moment. And that really sucks, because you can't enjoy your life when you're, looking that way and looking that way, and, life hits you. So I really wanted to learn to just be present. So I remember, working on that with my therapist, and he was like, okay, when you go to Liam's soccer game, like, just be present. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, how does one do that? And he's like, just be, just see, just tune into your senses. So, I really had to learn to be like, okay, like, what does the seat feel beneath me? And what is the air like around me? And what am I smelling? And what am I hearing? And what am I seeing? And I remember just watching Liam playing soccer and just the joy on his face, because he's a kid, he's having so much fun. And it was like, that I want that. And I think we focus so much on, I want to be happy, or I'll be happy when. And the thing is, happiness is fleeting. And, you can have a totally, excuse my language, tastic day, but there is still always a moment of joy. There is still always something to be grateful for, and even if it's, hey, I had a suicide head in with a rabid deer and he totaled my car, and I walked away from it and I'm alive and now I have a better car. So, hey, like, there's always something you can find out of it. So joy was the third one. The fourth one was affluence, which I really struggled with that word. I'm still struggling with that word. I got to work on my money mindset. But really what I think that means to me is more abundance, that, whether it's financial resources, energy resources, time resources, I want to have enough. And I don't need to be the richest woman in the world. I just want to have enough to pay my bills, feed my kids, be able to give to others, have the time and the energy to accomplish the things that I think I was put on this planet for. So I've kind of had to revise these as I've gone. And the last one was the one that I really, really wanted most, was to feel loved. And in Danielle Laporte's work, she talks about, the exact form of a word that you pick really matters. And so for me to say I wanted to be loved required, kind of the way she describes it is, then would require somebody else to love me. And that's putting things on external validation and needing something outside of yourself to create that. So she recommends, choose to be love, or choose to be loving, or something like that, something that's more within your control. And so I originally had written loved, and then I erased the D. And I was like, okay, I'll be love, I'll be loving. All right, I'll be love, But then what I realized was, like, I already was those things. In my 25 years as a therapist, I have dealt with some nasty, awful, unhappy, miserable people in pain, or not happy. I've never not felt love for them. I really have this, I truly, part of who I am, I have unconditional love for people. Even if you've hurt me or harmed me, I still want what's best for you. I don't want you to hurt. I know that what you're doing or how you're behaving is coming from a place that's wounded. I can forgive you. I can still love you. So I really struggled. I really this stuck with me for a while. And I always say it stuck in my craw. And then people are like, what are you, Southern? I'm like, no, but it stuck in my craw. So I kept writing love. And then in parentheses, I put this D. It was like my love rebellion, I guess, and because I really wanted to be loved. And then, somewhere along the way of kind of working through, the chapters in my book are about self-care and self-compassion and self-worth and self-acceptance and self-esteem and, all the self words. And when it came to self-love, I realized, my children love me, my students love me, my patients love me. I thought that I think I knew cognitively that my parents and my brother loved me, but I think that some of the stuff I went through in my childhood, one of my protective mechanisms that I self-sabotage, I isolate. So I take on everything by myself to protect everyone else unnecessarily, but I think I didn't let their love in because I was trying to protect them. And that wall has been taken down and all things are out and open. And now I feel very loved and supported by my family. And then there just kind of came this point where I was like, hey, I actually love myself. And so I don't think that saying I want to be loved requires, as a heterosexual cis female, it would be a man for me, but I don't need a man to love me to be loved. I can love myself, and that still means I am loved. And so the book title just, it stuck because it was just, I don't know, it was this thing that it was my journey. And, and I think that, they say that you have to love yourself before somebody can love you. And I do think there's some truth to that. I think that once I really was able to accept myself and love myself and live my life the way that I wanted to live it, and to be complete and whole and not need a man to fix me or to make me complete, then he walked into my life. So loved is about loving yourself and really, knowing who you are and showing up as that authentic person. Because I think, we're so afraid to say what we really think or what we really feel or what we really want. And then we all feel like we're not certain if our husband or our wife or our friend or our parents love us. Well, that's because we haven't shown them who we really are. And so I think that's where that doubt always lies, whereas like, if I can say, hey, I am a registered Republican. I sit very much in the middle. I'm not a crazy wackadoo on either side, but I am a registered Republican and I could change if I wanted. And I don't really care because I'm more about like, let's all get along and let's find a place to live in harmony in the middle. And that's who I am. And there are people who will love me for that. And there are people that will hate me for that. But I know who I am and I know what I stand for. And I do stand for love. I think Mother Teresa was asked to march against Vietnam, and because she was anti-war, and she chose not to march. And people were very shocked that she would not march against the Vietnam War. And she said, I will not march against anything. She's like, show me a march where you're marching for peace or you're marching for love, and that I'll lead. And that's how I feel. I'm not against anyone. I'm for everyone. And I think that if we can all learn to love ourselves and accept ourselves and feel safe and courageous enough to voice our own thoughts, I think there'll be more honesty and more truth and more genuine connection between people, one-on-one, in groups, in countries, in nations, internationally. And to me, I think that's how we fix the problems we have. I don't think segregating anything is working. That's just my opinion. So I don't know. Long story on that one. Sorry, but
no, absolutely amazing. I love it. I love that. Really, really strong. Thank you for sharing that, Tina. One thing I want to pick out from what you've mentioned there about love and self-love is really interesting. Again, it's an interesting concept, especially for myself as well, because it's not until recently where the notion and even the idea of self-love was on my radar, on my psyche, because for the good part of my life, I've never really thought about loving myself. Like you mentioned, like you mentioned, it's all about when someone mentions love, I'm looking, okay, I love this, I love that person. I'm looking outwards, but I'm never looking inwards. And as you were talking about self-love and looking for external validation, and you got me thinking about how come we've never really been taught that, or kind of been exposed to that concept for so long in our lives, that 30, 40 years of my life have been, just looking outwards, where it could have been looking inwards and loving myself first. Then I can give out love.
I think that's so true. I mean, I know for me, I grew up Catholic, and it was, turn the other cheek, right? So somebody hurts you and you're like, all right, give it to me again. I think as a person, and especially as a mother, this term selfish, don't be selfish, is such a big thing. And I think I'm an Enneagram 2, which is the helper, with a wing of servant 1, which means you're just like here for everyone else, And then, that's just me. And I am a recovering, or I don't know. Yes, I'm recovering, because I'm not going to be a codependent my whole life. So anyway, but I am a people pleaser. And so for me, I feel loved when everybody around me is happy. And that's a great thing. Most of the caregivers in the world are those personality types. And so certainly there needs to be people who take pride and joy and pleasure and happiness from being able to help and to serve. But I think the thing is we think we need to be selfless, which means there's nothing of us. So if I'm selfless and there's no self that's me, well, what do I have to give? That's that metaphor of pouring from an empty cup. And, I think we need to be self-full, like self-fulfilled. We need to make sure we take care of our own needs. And I don't think that self-full is necessarily selfish, for me to make sure that I got a good night's sleep and I fed myself and I meditated or exercised or journaled or whatever it is that I need to do to keep myself mentally and physically happy so that I can show up as a giving, loving, supportive mother, professor, therapist, coach, friend, family member, whatever. I can't do that if I haven't taken care of myself as well. And I think we have this I don't know, cockamamie notion and that, to do anything for ourselves makes us a bad, selfish person. And I think, we all have wounding from, our childhood, intergenerational wounding. We know from genetics comes, it's passed down on our DNA. We have wounding from the messages we get from society, what you're told to be a man and how I'm told to be a woman, or what makes a good mom or a good dad, or whatever. And, we all have these things that we have to work on and heal for ourselves. But, you've heard that saying, hurt people hurt people. So if we're all hurting from some kind of, unintentional or unknown trauma in our life, whether it was a major trauma that we're like, wow, that was traumatic and horrible and awful, or just everyday traumas, like we all have them. And I always say there's no comparison in suffering. Like there's still things we have to deal with. But, if we are hurting and we're not caring for and nurturing and healing ourselves, then we're acting from a wounded place. If my leg's broken, I can't carry my child out of the house during a fire, right? I've got to heal my leg. And so I think that's one thing I find it's very easy for me. I can give you these physical metaphors for, mentally and socially and psychologically what's going on inside of us. But, certainly I think that heart, mind, soul piece has been really just shoved to the side. We see the physical injuries. We can accept them. If somebody's leg's broken, we don't expect them to walk. But if somebody's heart's broken or their psyche's damaged or their soul is dispirited, like, why do we expect them to be able to carry the load and the burden and to do all those things? And so I think it's really important for us to recognize that human beings are wired for relationships. We are meant to be in supportive relationships. That is one of our basic primal needs. But the very first relationship we need to have is with ourselves. That's the one we were born with. That's the one we're going to leave the earth with. Everyone else is going to come and go at some point. But the one we have with ourselves is the only one that lasts. And it might change throughout our lifespan, hopefully, as we grow and, improve. And then if you are a spiritual person and you believe in God or the divine or the universe, that is another relationship that, is with you through your whole life. And so I think sometimes we need to kind of step back into that and look inward to say, all right, how am I in that internal environment, my heart, my mind, my body, my soul, my spirit? And am I well? And then I can turn outwards and say, okay, now with my other relationships with people, with my vocation or my passion, with my finances, with the environment and the rest of the world at large, how can I show up in that realm? And all of that, I think, has to be in harmony. And all of it needs constant tending and maintaining, because all relationships need tending and maintaining. You don't just meet, fall in love, and it's perfect forever. You got to put time into it. So you got to put time into yourself as well.
I completely agree with that. Putting in the time to have that relationship, especially with yourself. You mentioned it clearly there. I mean, devoting the time, enough time, or any time to have and maintain that relationship with yourself.
5 minutes sometimes is all you get, but yeah.
But this is where, we start talking about, you mentioned right at the beginning, you talk about journaling as one of the key things that you've done right from as long as you can remember, right
Mhm.
until this day. And I'm a kind of avid fan of journaling. I keep telling people journaling is one of the key things, and it has helped me because I'm coming from a place where I'm doing it, I've done it, and I know the power of journaling as one of the things that, we talk about, tending to your relationship with yourself and giving yourself love and attention first. So journaling is one of the key things that I still do. Meditation, one of the things that I've picked up along the way and I find useful, that give me energy. Somehow after meditating, I find that my energy level just goes up, and it's maintained, sustained throughout the day. Days where I used to go into work and I'm starting with a really low energy level, I find that the days that I meditate in the morning, when I go into work, I'm almost like invincible. It doesn't affect me very much. Obviously at the end of the day, it starts to get depleted, but it
But then you
lasts
got to do it
longer.
again.
Yeah, and then you have to do it again. So these are the key things which I find, you talk about maintaining that relationship, having that relationship with yourself first and foremost before you can give to others. From your point of view and your own practice, what are the other things that you find, useful for people tuning in and listening in? What can they start to invest in, and to look into to have and maintain that relationship with themselves?
Yeah. It's interesting. I started over the last couple of years trying different people's, morning routines or evening routines, or, everybody had their suggestions. And so there are some that I find repeat, and there are some that I find that are unique. And I don't think there's any one best one. I think there's, what's best for you. My students always joke that when they ask me a question, my answer is usually it depends. And they get so frustrated. They're like, no, what's the answer? I'm like, it depends. And I'm like, and now let's talk about what it depends on, right? Let's think about the patient. I think my brother at the very beginning was the first one that said, every night you need to think of 3 things you're grateful for. And that was just easy peasy for me. It was like Jack, Riley, Liam, my 3 sons, and my brother's like, okay, 3 more. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, 3 more. I was like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, this is easy for you. And I guess for him, finding things to be grateful for had been something he just never did. And I do think that when I look at my natural personality, I just am a grateful person. So that I love because that's just part of me, but I do write down 10 specific ones each day. I start each morning, before I turn on my phone, I try to just tune into myself and see, like, where am I at? How am I feeling today? I spend a little bit of time not visualizing, but visioning, because I recently learned the difference that visualizing is imagining yourself doing something that you know how to do. Visioning is actually bigger than that, because it's imagining things that you have never experienced or that you'd like to experience. So I kind of have my own mental visioning. It's like a vision board thing. I just don't have an actual vision board, but I just think about things that I'd like to feel or have or experience in my life. I do pray every morning, for, the help to get through the day, or, show me how I'm supposed to serve, or help me get through this pain that I'm dealing through, whatever. And that was something that as much as I was raised Catholic, I I actually never prayed to ask for help until my youngest son was in the hospital a couple years ago. I only ever prayed to say thank you. And I realized that I wasn't leaning on or asking. I don't ask for help. I don't ask people for help. I didn't ask God for help. So I do that every day. I ask for help now. And sometimes I'm like, help me know what I need help with, because I need help. Then I get up, and I am a big believer in the power of breath. That is something that I have done research on. I get in good alignment, and I take 10 really full deep breaths, because your tissues need to be oxygenated. Your brain needs oxygen. And that's something that I also will do throughout the day. And I have actually a handout on just different breathing exercises people can do to help calm you down, to help focus, to help motivate and give you energy. So I use that throughout the day. I then actually, one of my mentors her name is Danelle Delgado, and I have a book of hers called I Choose Joy, and it's a daily journal. So it starts with my 10 gratitudes. Then I have three intentions for the day that are to move my needle forward, whether it's personally or, professionally or business or whatever. And they're very specific. So it's not just, finish editing the final draft of love. It has like a who, what, why, when, and what does that mean? So it's like not just thinking of I have to get this task, but like why am I doing it? So that there's an intent, a reason behind it. And who is doing is it just me, or is it something I'm meeting with Kamil to do? Or so it kind of shows you, who your partners are, what's the timeline for that. And what will I do to celebrate when that's done? Like, what does that give me? Which I think really helps anchor in and motivate you a little bit more to get those things done or to be clearer. And then it says, what's a lesson that you've learned today? And then the last thing is, who are you giving grace to? Sometimes I give grace to myself because I'm losing it. Sometimes I give grace to my child who I'm angry at. Sometimes I give grace to my ex who's done something that pisses me off. Sometimes I give grace to somebody I know that's sick or suffering. So that's kind of how I start my day. And then it's, drag children out of bed, go about the day, whatever. And then throughout the day, I try to meditate or breathe when I feel like I'm struggling, when I feel like my emotional, I think one of my trauma responses is I get flooded when there's just so much emotion that I can't process or think. So I know as an introvert, I have to kind of take some time alone to have solitude. Solitude is not, I'm not saying be lonely. I'm saying be alone with me, myself, God, my thoughts, whatever. Yeah. And so whether it's in my car or it's up in my room or it's in the bathroom somewhere that I find a bathroom at work, nobody knows where I am. I just sit in a stall. But yeah, just to kind of take that moment to just shut everything out and kind of tune back in and ground myself. And then, I try to eat healthy. I try to drink, hydrate a lot. I look for those moments of joy all throughout the day. And when I notice them, I really make myself stop and focus on them. And then I try to get a good night's sleep. So that's kind of all the things. And, at first, I think those habits are hard to build. I think it's good to pick one and like make that a habit. And then once you kind of anchor that one in, then maybe add another one. It's called habit stacking. But I think what's kind of cool is the more you do those things, like let's say you start with 3 gratitudes or you do 10 gratitudes. I think the more you do them, what ends up happening is they just become automatic and you're just grateful throughout your whole day. Or, if you're trying to look for moments of joy, now you see joy everywhere. So I think that's kind of what's really cool is when that stuff truly becomes integrated into your life and it just becomes part of who you are.
I love the 3 key or the 3 gratitudes of the day, the reflection that you do at the end of the day. And I love that because we do that with the kids as well. And it's a really simple exercise that anyone can do, but it's so powerful because one, you're reflecting on the day and picking out the key moments. We live in a time where everything's very fast. Yeah. Right. And it's super fast that we don't allow ourselves to slow down. One of the key things you mentioned there is about kind of slowing down as well, slowing down time and giving yourself the time that you need and the space that you need during the day, which sometimes, we go throughout the day without even thinking about, or reflecting on the day. How has it gone right? We always sometimes, focus on the things that go wrong throughout the day, right? But there are so many things to be grateful for during the day that we miss out on those things. But it's so easy to do. So I love that three things that you are grateful for, to reflect on. I think, people tuning in, if you want to start, maybe that's a starting point to just reflect on that before you go to bed. And, why not, go to bed in a high energy state of thinking about the three nice things that happen to you during the day.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned earlier, this concept of like self-love, and, we weren't taught that, right, growing up. And I think that,
Mm,
there's just our parents and their parents and their parents before them, like, we always just do the best we can with what we know, right? And there's always a next level to take things to. But I think that, we worry so much about, what's going on in public education and what are our kids getting in schools. And, again, I think that's when we have to look in the mirror and say, what are we giving our kids at home, right? Like, what's the diet we're feeding them in
mm,
terms of, mental health and emotional health. And I think, that's where you said, how come we didn't get this? We didn't. But look, now you're giving it to your kids. You're teaching them, from
mm.
this enlightened place, more enlightened place that you are, to now share with them, well, how do I do those skills? Because I think, we just assume people know, and they don't know. And it's hard to learn how to surrender, or how to have grace, or how to, oh my gosh, how to, take accountability and apologize and make amends, if that's not a lesson we all need to learn, and to have the gratitude. And even, even if they're struggling to find things to be grateful for, I think you're right. I think we do tend to focus on the thing that's wrong, the thing that can still be fixed. So certainly we want to pause and celebrate those good moments and those joys and the things to be grateful for. But I also think acknowledging, if they're coming up with something that is a problem for them, not bypassing the problem too, right? I think we love to spiritually and emotionally
Yes.
bypass and be like, well, that's not that bad. You've got these
Mm,
three things to be grateful for. Okay, but they're still hurting about this. So, I
mhm.
think validating their emotions and helping them put words, feelings, words to those emotions, and helping them, like you said, pause and take that time to reflect and think about, why is this happening for me? What is this here to teach me? What can I do about it? Even just to be gratitude that I have a brain to think about it, or a heart that feels that deeply, or the support of a loving parent or friend to listen and validate and reflect back what you're feeling, or just sit with you in empathy while you're dealing with it. All of that is I think really good emotional, like attunement and regulation that we did not get taught. We certainly did not get taught. And man, if that's a mission, that's what I want to teach in schools.
Absolutely.
I want to go
Yeah.
teach emotional attunement and regulation. Thank you. You just gave me my next
There
mission.
you go. That's why I love these conversations. It's so powerful, these conversations. That's, every time I speak to you, again, this is my nth time speaking to you. And every time I finish,
It's not
I'm
going
in
to end.
such,
There's going to be nth to the infinity
and
bound. Okay.
my energy level just gone, of the charts. So I really love these conversations. So thank you for that. You
Of course.
mentioned language and
Mhm.
word there, and I think that's really key because you mentioned that sometime at the beginning of the conversation that we're having today about putting the right words to things. That's really important because the using the right terminology or right words can actually put you on a different path to
Mhm.
looking and feeling things.
Definitely. Yeah, I think when I first started, thinking that I was going to start a business, I would say, I want to start a business. And, then I was told, no, you have to say, I am starting a business. Right. And then one of my friend goes, what are you talking about? You have
Wow.
had a physical therapy business for 15 years. So you say, I have a business and I'm transforming it. But, so I think, yeah, I
Hmm.
think those words are really important. I think in our communications with others, which also goes to the way we speak to ourselves in our own head, which can sometimes be really nastier than anything anybody else ever says to us. But,
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with my oldest son the other day about nonviolent communication, which is, when you use the I statements, right? So instead of saying like, you were a jerk when you did this, it's saying, I felt hurt when you made this statement. And it's taking that ownership of your part of it. Or, I would like if you could speak to me with respect instead of, putting me down or judging me or, whatever. And I think our words really do matter. And my friends have started laughing at me because they're, I'm like, rephrase that. And they're like, darn you and your words. And I'm like, but it's so true.
It's true. It's true.
It really matters. So like, and I think there's a book. I'm sure there's a book. I'm pretty sure there's a book. I'm gonna have to Google it and put it in my Amazon cart if I don't know it. But I think the book is like, hope is not a strategy. So, like if you say like, I hope I could do this, or I wish, that's hoping and wishing is not going to get you where you want to get. Right. So, you have to say, I am, or I am doing, or I will, or, even if you really can't find it in your heart to believe that, like, I want to be a published author, or you can say, I'm not a published author yet, like you can always add that power of yet at the end of a statement. But, I think reaching for the next best higher vibration thought or more doesn't have to be, because I think sometimes we get into the power of positive thinking and it feels like such bullshit. It's like, I am a millionaire. No, I'm not. Like, come on, let's be real here. I'm an optimistic realist, but I can say I am affluent, or I am improving my money situation. I am getting out of debt. I am, whatever, like there's so many different ways you can phrase that. So I think it does. And it's part of that, what you said about slowing down and reflecting and really refining what it is that's important to me and critical to me that I'm going to use my limited time, money, energy, resources on. But let's get really clear about what that intention is, and what it is that I am, or I desire, or I'm doing, or I'm going to be. And I think using those I am statements or I feel statements, it's kind of scary because it means we have to take responsibility.
It's taking ownership. Yeah.
It's taking ownership, but it's also hugely empowering because then you realize I can change this, right? Like I don't have to feel hurt or small or insignificant. I can feel healthy. I can feel important. I can make a difference. And I think, but I think that's the double-edged sword. I know when I was when I worked in a rehab hospital and we went through our accreditation process, we had to go through the patient's Bill of Rights. So it was like, a patient has the right to be treated with dignity and explain the procedures and, blah, 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 all good things. And I remember thinking, I think there needs to be a patient's bill of responsibilities that correlates with that, right? So, in a rehab hospital, yes, at least here in the States, if somebody comes, it's expensive to be there every day to get your nursing, your food, your physician on call, your physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, psychotherapy, and patients have to participate. So if they are refusing therapy for 3 days in a row, they get shipped out because the insurance companies are like, well, if you're not participating, we're not paying, which makes sense. I kind of think that goes with life. And this is one lesson I'm trying to get across to my children. Like, you are not just entitled to have a phone that I pay for. You also have the responsibility to treat your mother with respect and appreciation. Otherwise, the phone goes away,
I'm laughing because I resonate with this.
Okay, you feel this? You feel my pain on this? I wish you weren't, because it's a stupid pain that we have to feel. But but I think that goes with all things in our lives. I have the freedom of speech, but I also have the responsibility to consider what the impact of the words I'm saying have on other people, right? Like there's always, it's a
two-way street. It's a two-way conversation. It's a dialectic, whatever you want to call it. It's a conversation. It is the two parts to it. It's not just a one-way street or conversation.
Yeah, no, it's not a one-way. You guys don't just get to hurl insults and disrespect at your mother. But my Wonder Woman bracelet's on, deflecting that stuff. So no. But I'm totally willing to have, like you said, a dialogue with you and hear what you think and what you feel and what you want. And I'd like you to listen to what I think and what I feel and what I want. And I'd like us to collaborate on a solution that we can all live with, that's probably better than anything either one of us would have come up with, because it's going to be better because it has something for all of us. And it has,
Yes.
everybody's got more of a perspective than I do, a different perspective. And that can only enhance what I know or what I can come up with as well. So, I think that's, to me, that's what should be taking place, within ourselves, with our immediate relationships, but also, at the world in large. We have to be honest about what we think, what we feel, what we need, what the resources are, and we have to collaborate to find a solution, because doing this is not, it's not solving it.
You touched on collaboration, and I'm a big fan and believer of collaboration on all the relationships that I have, be it personal, professional, family. When you were talking about collaboration, I thought about, how is it sometimes that we treat different people differently? What I'm trying to say is that, if we show up at work, we would treat our coworkers differently from, for example, our family members. And I'm thinking now, I try not to do that, because ideally it should be the same level of respect that I give my kids, my wife. The same should be to other people. What it should be no different. But sometimes we get caught up in treating people differently, and that's where I guess potential conflicts and everything comes to play, because we have a different set of rules in the different relationships that we have. What are your thoughts about that?
I used to joke when I was married that if we lived in a reality TV show, like if there were cameras going at all time, we probably would have had a happier, healthy relationship. Because you think about, like, when you are at work or you're out on the street, right? You're not going to yell and scream. Like, you don't yell and scream at your children out in public, but you might do it in your home when you're really frustrated. I'm guilty. I've done it. I'm not proud of it. I recognize when I do it. I try to do it less often, and I try to rectify it when I'm human. Like I said, I am an imperfectly perfect human. But I think, that when people are watching, right, we then, I used to joke with my ex, he, was in the NYPD, and he, they had this, an acronym, CPR. It was courtesy, professionalism, and respect. And at one time I remember saying to him, like, does that not extend when you walk in the front door? Like, does that CPR not come home with you? We're all guilty of this. I'm just using him as an example. I found from an early age with my kids, when I would ask them not to do something, the very first time I heard myself saying, they would say, why do I have to do that? And the first time I heard myself saying, because I said so, I was like, oh, I hated that when my parents would do that. Yeah. And I was like, and that doesn't teach my kids why I say so. So I always tried really hard. Like, why do you have to go to bed? Well, okay, because I say so, but here's why I say so. And, there certainly is a hierarchy of, I am the adult and I pay the bills and I do have the responsibility and I bear the brunt of the consequences. So there are things that, there isn't an equal power, but I certainly think, to each person in the conversation, there is a piece of that power that they should be empowered to share their thoughts and to be part of the solution. And when my kids lately, this is the one we're stuck on. They're like, well, but I told you how I felt. I'm like, and I listened and I validated, but just because you told me how you felt or what you wanted doesn't mean you get it. Like, that's the lesson we're kind of working on right now. You can tell me you hate school and you don't want to go. You're still going, because I don't want to go to jail. But I think, I think it is important for us to teach our kids, certainly, but also even our friends and colleagues, well, why do I say that? Or why is that my boundary? Or why is that important to me? Because I think it gives context, and then it helps people learn more about us, or it helps them learn more about themselves, and it just deepens the relationship. And I think it's kind of the same thing when you have conflicts, right? I mean, you're never not gonna, hopefully you don't have to have a fight, but you're going to have disagreements, things that you don't see eye to eye on. Maybe there's a conflict that comes up. Somebody is in a bad mood and they yell. But when you resolve them, I think you have two choices. You resolve them and you leave feeling like your needs weren't heard and met, and it separates you, or you're open, honest, vulnerable, and you work together to resolve that conflict in a way that feels good to both of you, and not where you have to concede. I'm not a big fan of well, you can have your way this time and I get my way next time, because now we're keeping score. And then I don't feel like that's a win-win to me. If we can collaborate and find something that we're both okay with, then that's a win-win. And I think then when you resolve conflict that way, you leave with your relationship being stronger, because you've learned about yourself and you've learned about your partner, and you've chosen to take that thing and work it out and move forward together, as opposed to, all right, we're here, we said we're sorry, and we're still here in our corners, still being angry with each other. That didn't bring us closer, and that didn't move us forward. And I think that's hard. It takes work. It takes vulnerability. It takes courage. But I don't know. I think relationships that, especially the ones that I value that. And so I'm willing to put that effort into it. And then there's the people that don't want to meet you there, and, either can't or don't. And then that's, the heartbreaking thing, when you have to say, okay, then I guess we stay surface level, and I guess we each go to our corners, and I guess I keep walking this path without you, and that's hard. But you can't stay where you can't be your authentic self, and where you're not valued, and where somebody doesn't want to work on a better relationship with you. I mean, you can, but I didn't want to. It didn't work for me.
You mentioned about being courageous there. So that's where the courage, you have to take the courage to just assess where you are and take that step and decide which path you want to go on.
And courage is one of my very favorite words. And the Latin root of it is cor, which is the heart. And so that really, to me, is where, the love comes from. If you do things with love for yourself and love for other people, I think it makes it easier to stand in courage, because, love is stronger than fear. Love is stronger than hate. Love is stronger than your doubts. It makes you willing to take that step, even when you don't know what the right thing is.
And I just want to mention, if you're listening to the podcast, you won't be seeing this, but if you're watching this on YouTube, just behind Tina there's a frame which is amazing. It says "Focus on Love," and I love that. I love that.
That picture was a gift that I bought myself. I did not grow up in a family that had artwork. Otherwise, there's just kids on the wall. And I busted one with my head vacuuming before Christmas, but I got to replace it. But this picture, I love it. My friend Jackie O'Leary makes these, and she finds discarded oil paintings. So underneath it is actually an old oil painting, and she painted that camera and the words over it, and you can see
I can just see the brush strokes.
And I was one of her first ones, and I was like, that has my name on it, tell me how much it is, and I'm gonna save for it. And it, my walls are red, so it matched, and my kids were like, that is ugly, we hate it. I'm like, I don't care, it's my house. I love it, and it makes me happy. So, and it, she built something beautiful out of something that could have been discarded, which I think is just amazing as well. So
that is just amazing. It's just, it's really amazing. If you create something out of something that you're saying, people would discard, that's just beautiful. And
then you go to Pottery Barn for Christmas presents, and they have heart pillows the week of your book launch, and you're like, I need heart pillows on my couch.
So, Tina, we've just gone past the hour mark here. So, time's just flown by. Just before we go into the last segment of today's podcast, just to recap, if you don't mind just refreshing our memory and also people tuning in about your latest book, Loved.
Loved, Love, and then an apostrophe Z. I have the Kindle version on my phone because it got published. It's live. The proceeds from the book sales will benefit LMU Girls. Like I mentioned before, it's a sewing school in Malindi, Kenya, that allows young women to have a voice, a choice, and a bank account. So they are not forced into the sex trade or being a child bride. It gives them that power. And I think that I don't know, I see myself in those young women. And so I want them to have everything that we have. But the subtitle of Loved is The Key to Unlocking Your True Potential and Living an Authentic Life You Love. And it is all about all of the self words that we need to work on. So kind of unlocking yourself and figuring out who you are, resolving your issues with your past self, understanding that this relationship with self is really critical and something that you need to work on. Self-care, self-compassion, self-worth, taking responsibility for yourself, self-awareness, self-development, self-trust, self-acceptance, and then arriving at true unconditional self-love and belonging, and then your future self. So investing in yourself to build the life you love, and then inspiring others with that. So that is my book. So it'll be digital copies available on Amazon, and then we'll do one last check for glitches in formatting and typos. Kamil, I have to just tell the story about you on Christmas or on our launch day. So God bless Kamil. He is like the hardest working author in Authentic. He was, met every deadline early. Yes, ma'am, no problem. Such a pleasure to work with. And he is leading us off because, he is the most East person coming over in Dubai. So it was launching in his world first. And the book launches and he's in our table of contents and his chapter is not in the book. And he sends us this message the night before launch day. I say Christmas because we were talking about how it felt like Christmas Eve, right?
Yes.
And I thought he was kidding at first. And then I open it and I see that he's completely right. Somehow his chapter was not in the final formatted version. And I am beside myself because of all the people that it should not have happened to. And he was like, it's okay. He was so gracious. And he was like, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to trust it'll be there in the morning. And God bless Colleen, our formatter and our editor. She got it right up there and it was there. So he woke up the next morning. I didn't sleep. I could not sleep until I saw that his story was there. But there are all sorts of things that happen behind the scenes. So at least this time I only have to worry about disappointing myself if something's not right.
hopefully not. But again, if amazing experience. So thank you, Tina. I mean, the whole experience personally for myself, thank you again for having me as one of the co-authors in the book.
Pleasure.
So yeah,
I can't wait till you write your own book because you have a lot of wisdom to share, my friend. So.
Coming soon, hopefully.
Coming soon, hopefully from the Key Publishing House.
Yes. Tina, just off the back of that, just to remind people, it will be your solo book, Loved, will be available across Amazon sites across the globe. Is that right?
You got it. Yep.
So go ahead and grab yourself a copy, either Kindle or paperback version of the book, because again, like Tina mentioned, all the proceeds will go to LMU Girls. So by purchasing the book, you will help Tina help others. So that's a noble thing to do. So go ahead and do that.
Do I have to do a lightning round?
Yes, absolutely.
My lightning round? Okay.
Just before we go to the quick 5 question right at the end, Tina, how can people connect with you?
Oh, that's a good question. So let's see. My website is www.thekeytowellness.net because .com was not available. On Instagram, I am thekeytowellness.tina. On Facebook, I'm Kristina Tickler Welsome. Yes, Tickler was my maiden name, so Tina Tickler got made fun of a lot growing up. You can also find me. I have an Instagram page, Dr. Kristina Welsome. I think those are all the usual places. I do have two Facebook groups. One is the Key to Wellness that I'm going to probably be phasing out, because the other one that I'm really loving a lot more is Soul Nourishing Conversations, where we can talk about all things like this. And it's, fully participatory and promoting for, anyone and anything that has some conversations to have. So if you want to join us there, please come find us at Soul Nourishing Conversations on Facebook.
Awesome. So we're going to put all the social media handles in the description of the podcast, so you can go ahead and connect with Tina after this. Okay. Cool. So we're coming to the quick five question round. Okay. So you ready, Tina?
Sure.
Awesome.
Hit me.
All right. So the first one, question number one, what is your favorite word?
I think it has to be love.
Yes,
that was easy.
That was easy. Awesome. So, okay, question number two. What are you currently reading or listening to?
Oh, God. Okay, I used to be a one book at a time girl, and now I probably have about 10 different things that I'm reading or listening to, because it depends on what issue's burning. But the one I'm really focusing on right now, I'm reading The Anatomy of the Heart by Brene Brown, which I am loving, absolutely loving.
Awesome. So question number three, if you could meet someone either living or past, who would that be?
I think that I am often inspired by three people I find usually catch my attention. One is Nelson Mandela, one is Mahatma Gandhi, and the other is Eleanor Roosevelt. And I just find their words speak to me. And I think that the things that they lived through and the mindset and the heart that they showed as they went through those things, I would love some guidance on how did they do that, and how did they show up? How did they endure? How did they show up? And how did they lead from those places?
Wow, amazing list there. Thank you for sharing that, Tina. Question number four, what advice would you give to the younger Tina?
Oh, well, I'm actually writing a chapter in a book called The Younger Self Letters right now. That'll be out next year. So that chapter is about the advice I would give to the younger Tina. So the advice I would give her would be to choose love over fear. That's the title of my chapter. Because I think, I was a very fearful child. I had anxiety. I was afraid of things, and afraid of everything, like spiders and people crawling in the window and fires and people hating me, like just everything, afraid of everything. And I think that, choosing to love means to love myself, to know that the love that people had for me was real, and that I should have gone to them with certain things. And that, things might have turned out differently. They might have been a little easier. They might not have. Maybe they had to run the course the way they did for me to be who I am today. But I think fear immobilizes us, and I think love empowers us and causes us to take action. So I just would remind her to choose love, to choose joy.
Love that. Choose love over fear. Love that. So the last question, Tina, what can we expect from Tina in the next 5 years, say?
That's a good question. Well, she's not stopping now, because she finally realized that she has worth and she has value and she has things to say, and that some people won't like them, but some people will. And I think I need to continue speaking up and speaking out to be able to have impact. So I don't know. I think I need to start this love over hate movement. I think I definitely think we need to have more emotional regulation and self-knowledge and intelligence in ourselves and in our kids. And I really think it does have to start we have to start by looking in the mirror. I think we have to start with that self-responsibility, and then only then can we turn and lead or speak or have the impact or the change that we want to have in the world. So I really think it's that healing through love, healing through self-love, is I think what I'm supposed to be doing here. So not sure exactly what shape that'll take. Definitely words are going to be involved, probably lots more books because I love doing it, and hopefully empowering other people, to lose their fear and to choose to step up authentically and use their voices for power, to empower themselves and to then have the ability to put strength behind their movements.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. I'm really looking forward to this and noble mission of yours, Tina. So giving my full support in that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tina, we have come to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much. This has been an absolute joy for myself, and I hope it has been for you as well. The conversation has been absolutely amazing. Tina, any last words of advice to people tuning in?
I think just, be brave, be courageous, be vulnerable, be yourself, be loved, be loving, know that you're loved, and that it's not always a linear progression. Sometimes it's a big swirling mess before you can take that next step forward, but just have faith that if your intentions are good and you're headed in the right direction, you'll get there eventually. So don't give up.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for you tuning in. This has been the Academy Podcast with Tina Welsome. I'm absolutely grateful again for your presence, Tina, and your energy today. So until the next episode, peace and love to you always. Stay safe, stay healthy. From myself and from Tina.
Thank you all, and take care of yourself. Good luck in 2022. Let's make this a better year all around. So do what you need to do to make that happen. Take responsibility for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Until the next episode, bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in from wherever you are. My sincere hope is that this episode has not only resonated with you, but also given you some invaluable tips and strategies to improve your life. Don't forget to share your comments with me. As you know, I love to hear your views. Also, remember to follow the Academy, follow me, my guests, and tag us on our social media handles, which will be provided in the description. Most importantly, please leave a review and let me know that you've heard this podcast and how it has impacted you. Until the next episode, stay safe, stay healthy, and peace and love from me always.